problem.
Looks all right now, though, doesn't it? Can you see the grey? Can you see the grey?
No, it's good. It's good.
And Phil's ordered the pizzas, so we're all set for a decent show. Catch you now. Now then, welcome to what will be the last instalment of Red Army TV for the current season. And we thought we can't go out without a bit of a bang, so we've got two damn squibs on the couch. It is Marc, the He-Man Yafano, and Phil, I Do Everything Socially Bullock. How are you doing, fellas?
Get it. It's quite a good title.
Yeah.
You like that one, do you?
That's all right.
Whatever mine is, I don't know. But
You don't want to know.
talking of damp squibs, fellas, the season as was. We weren't there at Elland Road doing Leeds United by 4 goals to 2 to get through to Wembley. We'd love to have been, but had we got through, we'd have got battered anyway. Marc, what do you think of the season?
There's a lot we could talk about. We'd need about 4 hours, I think. Look, we just ran out of steam. We spoke earlier on, about 6 or 7 weeks before the end of the season. I think we spoke and said along the lines of, I just hope we don't finish 7th and drop out of them playoff places. And look, unfortunately for us, it come true. I just thought we ran out of steam. I thought, if you want the truth, I thought that we were found out probably about 3 weeks after Christmas, where teams were finding us out, especially at home. And obviously, you can't go on a 6-game run without getting 1 point in the latter part of the season, mate, and expect to hit the playoffs. Simple as that.
Brief overview of the season, then we'll dig deeper, Phil, from you.
Do you know what? I'm a bit on the fence because I think
Split the bump.
on the whole that we've missed out. We've finished 7th, so there's no playoffs. There's no attraction to Wembley and the potential to be playing in the Premier League again. But on the flip side, I just think we've all hoped and dreamed that this would be the season, and I think we've all been put to rights. Really, the guys on the pitch, the guys off the pitch, the fans that are sat in the stadium. So I don't think it's been bad. I don't think it's been great. I'm meh for me, just meh.
I think there's been a lot right across the club that the club can learn from this year, like talking to the fans, getting stuff out there, players saying one thing, the manager saying another thing. Nothing ever marries up. Remember, fans are your bloodline, aren't they? You know, you need to keep them in the loop. Yeah. Even if it's in the loop a small bit, they need to be in the loop. So I think the club's they're going to use this probably as a massive learning curve, I think, this year.
It has to be for everyone. Yeah, everyone connected with the club. Up in the boardroom, down along the touch line. Because at points this season, I've been talking to stewards. Stewards have been telling me one thing. Players are telling us another thing. It's very loud from the boardroom that nothing's going on. So, communication right across the park, I think is a massive improvement.
One thing we'd like from you tonight, as well as your thoughts on the season, on what has to happen over the next 10 weeks before the new season kicks in the Championship. Your disappointment, highlights of the season, lowlights of the season. Where did it go wrong this season? Whatever your views are, get them into us. We're starting to get them coming in, actually. Holgate Ender, clear out the deadwood, start fresh next season. Get shot of clueless Tony. He knows nout. Pulis is your starting point for the clean out. What else we got here? Joseph Coombs. Woodgate's odds are now 11-4. Reitiger 9-4. Does the clear out start with Tony?
I don't really want to say it, but I'm going to have to. I think it does. I think it's it's been one of them seasons where we've done really well in the League Cup and the FA Cup to a point, and we've had the high of quarterfinals there, and we've beat teams that we wanted to beat. I think when we scale it back and we say we need to get rid of Deadwood, I think it's clear now that Tony Pulis is going to go either the end of this week or beginning of next, whenever it's going to be. We haven't got a clue who's coming in, but I do think there's probably 5 or 6 players that need to follow Tony out the door.
Marc?
Well, how do I follow that? I think you're absolutely bang on right. Unfortunately, I think Tony Pulis will probably look back on this year himself and probably say, did I do enough? Do you know what? We could pick that apart as well and say, did the club do enough? It's quite obvious he wasn't backed for whatever reason, whether it was players who didn't want to come and play for him in his style of play, or whether it was the club. And we've mentioned it a few times, saying, are we just potless? Have we got no money to spend to bring players in?
That's how it looks.
And that's
Might not
what's-
be the truth, but that's how it looks.
Yeah, it's how it looks. The big thing is, again, I don't want to beat on about it, but the big thing is nobody from the club came out. I mean, we spend a hell of a lot of money on chief executives and head of recruitment and people like that, and not one of them can come and chat to the fans. Not one of them can come on a show like this or do a little piece to camera for a show
Well,
like
I
this.
tell you what, we can talk communication in a sec, because there's so many different elements of the season, of where we are now, of the club, of the fans that we can dig into. But we've gone down the road of Tony Pulis. How can he stay when it's turned to ridicule on the terraces? And it has turned to ridicule. You know, I was between us, we go to just about every game this season. I was at Rotherham. There was the three lads with the dinosaurs, the Rod Hull and Emu type blow riding on the back of a dinosaur, waiting for the coach to leave. I think we've got some pictures of that somewhere. The terraces, the Borough fans themselves were singing, "Your football is not very good," and we'll put those words in. How can he stay when the fans have turned in their numbers like that?
I don't think you can, but I've said before in the social show that a lot of fans see Tony Pulis as one below Steve Gibson. Even though he's got a board and he's got all of his directors, managers around him, we see and direct our anger, rightly or wrongly, towards the manager, because we know that the manager is the last person we see before we get to that boardroom. I think a lot of fans, even when Tony Pulis came to the club, were on his back, typically as we do, before he'd even got into his office, because we'd heard things from other clubs, and we've not backed him as fans, I don't think, as much as what we should have done. I don't think the club, certainly don't think the club have backed him. I mean, only this week we're hearing that Bevington and Bowser are on the way to Holland to look at a player, and I'm sorry, but how can you be looking for players when you don't even know who the manager's going to be? For me, it's the manager's decision who brings somebody in.
Or were they looking at Reitziger? Would they talk to Reitziger?
I think that's
more. Potentially, yeah.
But then
I
would,
think
would Bevington be involved in the selection of the manager? Or is his recruitment position just players? I don't know.
Well, again, we don't know, do we? And again, we're going to go on to communication. What does he recruit? Program sellers? Does he recruit pie sellers? Or does he recruit players? Does he recruit management, coaches? We don't know. We don't know what role he is. You know, but if the chief executive's going,
they were on my plane.
You know,
I was off to Asia to do some work, and I sat on the plane first. I've got a gold card, so get in first, fellas. So I sit in the plane, and then there's Bowser and Bevington. So I saw them with my own eyes on the plane that I was on, and we were flying to Amsterdam from Teesside.
So, you know, if Bevington was getting on there with another member of the coaching staff or the recruitment side of staff, you would probably say it was for a player. When the chief exec goes, why would he need to go and talk
and your head of recruitment?
Yeah.
You're going to sign someone, aren't you? Or at least trying to sign someone.
For me, you're looking at a coach. But anyway, that's just my opinion. Going back to the original point, Dave, is there a way back? For me, there's no way back from you. Absolutely bang on right. And again, I'll bring it down to communication. The fans turned because of the miss. You know, up until Christmas, we were still aiming for automatic promotion. Or that's what us as fans believed. We still had players. We've got some footage from the Disabled Supporters Association where the players there were actually saying, well, I mean, we're aiming for top two. Then Tony came out in a press conference and said, well, actually, it's the playoffs. Oh, hang on. You're trying to sell season tickets out soon. You know, what we're trying to do? That's what I think. And I don't think there's any way, I think you're right, I don't think there's any way back for him to come. As soon as the fans turn on the terraces, and obviously it's easy for the chairman because his contract runs out. It's not as if you're going to sack him. It just comes to a...
But does it again? Because we're hearing rumours that there was an extension to that contract on the table come New Year. So it might not even be as clear-cut as being able to get rid of him. We don't know.
Well, I've read a couple of blogs, and the majority of the blogs say that Tony Pulis has declined to take that offer up.
Yeah.
Only time will tell, won't it?
Yeah.
Only time will tell.
Disappointing season that it was. Let's have a look at that, then we'll start looking ahead later in the show. Low lights first?
I think we're probably going out to Newport. I don't... Yeah. I'd have accepted defeat, but what I won't accept is to just stand there and let them run rings around us. I think we have quality players, and we still have quality players in the squad. We should have been the ones running rings around them. I do think, for me, it's probably the worst game of the season to go out to and no disrespect, but such a small club. We know there was a big build-up because it's where Pulis is from, and it was Transporter Bridge against Transporter Bridge, blah, blah, blah. But to travel down there and then watch unfold what happened, probably my lowest point of the season.
We've said many times, haven't we, on this show and on the Monday night show, you can't pull the wool over Borough fans' eyes because the majority of them know their football. It looked that night at Newport as if we were inept, as if players didn't want to play. And then obviously the debacle of after the game when there was allegations of players having a go at fans. And it was just a night to forget for the club.
We will come on to highlights, I do promise you. We will. we'll come on to highlights. Not that there were that many, and man wasn't on the pitch, funny enough, but you'll have to hang around for that one. Fellas, we've got to talk about all kinds of stuff, so get the thinking juices going, like who's going to replace Pulis if he goes, all that sort of stuff. What do we need for the new season? But what we need now is to take a quick break for Teesside TV. Now then, we're back. Sorry, we took a bit of a longer break than normal there because we've been trying to sort out who wants water and who wants Pepsi Max. It's like big life-changing decisions on Red Army tonight. So what were we talking, fellas? Oh, hang on, before we do anything. People have been sending us messages. Joseph Coombs. Didn't feel like a season. We were destined to go up. Lowest point was QPR away for me. We need to bring in some wingers and fullbacks, bringing some leaders, and that starts with the manager. Holgate and Chris Hughton was his suggestion. But he thinks he'll go to West Brom now. Yeah, I mean, if we're going to bring Houghton in, or we're going to bring Wagner in, or we're going to bring Jukanovic in, I was with Stevie McLaren today, and we were talking about who'll come into the Borough, and it seems to be like, if it's somebody like that, they want money. They'll want to turn around to give and say, okay, how much money are you going to give me to spend?
We've said it a lot on social on a Monday night. If we're seriously going to look at somebody like Houghton, like Riesiger, like Wagner, Jukanovic, even Jurgen Klinsmann has been bandied about.
He was mentioned in German press.
They're going to want to come in. They're going to want money to spend because they're going to want to. They're not just coming in to try and get success over a period of time. They're going to want to come in with a little bit of money behind them and try and get success in the first season because it's a results-driven business and the best result we can get is promotion.
We had a montage up of some people who were available, and I mean, you bang on, right? I mean, you either throw money at it, or you stick with homegrown talent and homegrown coaches, which is another way people are looking at it with the likes of Woodgate and Curtis Fleming, and But for me, I don't know. I think it's an impossible task at the minute because I believe, other than someone like Michael Reisiger, who could be a good shout because as much as yes, he'd want money to spend, he also wants to spread his wings in English football. So someone like that to
and he's got a link with the Borough as
well. He's got a link with the Borough.
Days.
He's got a link with the Borough. He's done really well at the academy in Ajax. He's getting like rave reviews. So for him, it's a step up, isn't it? To come over here. Whether someone like him would the first year would want to spend bag loads of money, he might want to come and sort of bed in and then maybe have some money to spend. Look, I don't know. We don't know whether the club has got money to spend. We don't know whether it hasn't got money to spend. We don't know whether we have to sell before we can buy. Look.
So what's your gut feel? Go on, gut feel. What do you... do you think we've got problems? Do you think there's no cash there? What are you feeling?
I just think that it could have been an excuse to change our manager when Tony Pulis' contract ended. Instead of... The Borough never do anything straight and nada. So they never ever come out and just go, Tony Pulis' contract ending on Friday. Thanks for all you've done, Tony. They never ever do that. They've let it drag out. Something's been leaked through the Evening Gazette.
Well, I think football contracts go till the end of June, don't they? June the 30th?
I don't know. Quite possibly. Yeah. Quite possibly. So, but something came out, and obviously the Evening Gazette and Gazette Live, to say that a senior source at the club they'd got this from, a senior source at the club, that obviously his contract wouldn't be renewed. So, look, the Borough never do nothing straight and nada. They never do nothing straight down the line. They always, when you think they're going to turn right, they always turn left. We see that on transfer deadline day when you have me bombing around all over the world.
You volunteered, mate.
On Eurostar.
Good on you.
And I didn't have a gold card. Well, that's another story.
Yay!
But look, only time will tell. I'd like a younger manager. If you were going to ask me who I would want, probably a younger manager, maybe. Something with younger ideas,
but
more dynamic.
Knowing that the club have not necessarily refused to back Tony Pulis the last three windows because they've backed him to a point. They brought in McNair, Flint, whoever else. For me, if they're going to bring in an experienced manager, that manager is going to want funds. It's not a case of coming, you've got no money. You might get somebody like Tony Mowbray, who would do that because he loves the club.
Say Tony Mowbray, mate.
But you're not going to get anybody else to do that. I think a lot of managers would have already taken their name out of the hat, seeing that we failed to sign any of our supposed targets over the last three windows. And I think what that does is it makes the pool very, very short. And at some point, the club are going to say, never heard of him, never heard of him, never heard of him.
Hang on.
It's going to be Woodgate.
Aidan Flint, Paddy McNair, Andy Lonergan, Jordan Hugill, Danny Bath, George Saville, Sam McQueen, Mo Besic, loans and permanent signings. I bet hardly any of them, if any, were on Pulis' list.
We've maybe on a third list, second, third, maybe fourth or fifth list.
I certainly don't think it was on the top of his list. But he's been very vocal about that. You know, he's come out a few
so
times.
are you right
and,
to slag him off?
well, it's $1 million question.
Yeah.
Fans are going to because
He's
it's
the
their
first point of
outlet.
contact,
Yeah,
isn't he?
it's their outlet.
He's the first point of contact that you look, you know, and remember, I said this the other day. Remember, fellas, he came as a stopgap. He only came and signed an 18-month contract because, in my opinion, and that's what football's all about. Monk didn't work. We spent 50 million quid. Monk didn't work. Gibson was quick to wield the axe when the fans turned. He went for someone experienced who'd done it before in the Championship and the Premier League. Old timer, brought him in to steady the ship. And to a certain extent, and you all know what my feelings were when he first came. I heard them on the show. I wasn't a Tony Pulis fan. I said it's going to be negative, boring football. He actually turned me a little bit because he galvanised the team. He galvanised the club, got them all pulling in the right direction. We've said it 1,000 times, said all the right words about where he comes from, steel industry. People are very much like me. He said everything right. He changed me a little bit and got him pulling in the right direction. The problem is history always dictates. Look at any blog at the clubs he's been to. Palace, Stoke, you know, West Brom. Second season, the fans turn. Every club he's been to.
And I think
and we've done exactly the same. The fans got to Christmas and turned.
It's really important that you just said a really valid point. He signed an 18-month contract, and at the end of last season, Tony Pulis said, "Don't judge me on the second half of this season. Judge me on a full season." So for me, without him saying, "Judge me when we're up in the Premier League" or "Judge me when we're in the playoffs," that's him saying, "I've got a season to show you lot that in one seat I can get us up there or thereabouts," and he's failed at that.
And let's be honest, for someone so experienced, he says some stupid things. Finishing 7th could be seen as a better job as finishing in the playoffs the year before. No, Tony, this is planet Earth. Right, it isn't. Finishing 6th and getting in the playoffs is the better position, regardless of manpower. And don't get me wrong, there'll be people sat there saying we haven't got the manpower. We saw the likes of Traore, Gibson, you know, from under his feet. We got rid of him. Bamford, another one to go. Yes, we got rid of them. So yes, maybe the personnel. Did he have the striking power? I don't believe, and I've said it before. We've got a striker at the club who Tony Pulis would play in his first team.
Yeah, I don't think one of them would be on his to buy list, would there? A couple of comments coming in. David Jackson, Cowley Brothers, Chris Wilder did well at Northampton before Sheffield United. We'll talk about possible coming-ins and looking forward and positive stuff a little bit later. Joseph Coombs, our problems recruitment. Holgate Ender, the money would be laid out for the right player at the right price. David Jackson, Pulis has to go. He's given us the 2 biggest humiliations. Joseph as well. June the 1st, his contract runs out, so maybe it has been mentioned somewhere. Yeah, the contract comes out. We want your thoughts. Keep them coming in. We're on YouTube tonight, so get on there, type a few things, let us know your highs, your lows, what you want to happen in the summer. Where do you think we'll be next season? I bought into Pulis at the start of the season. I've got to be honest. I thought he'd shown enough, and I bought into with Stoke they were the second highest goal scorers, so he doesn't play as negatively as you thought. But it's going to be interesting to see what does happen if we have a change. It looks like we're going to have a change. Tell you what, we'll take a quick break and then we'll be back for more chat. And we promise we'll be looking ahead right after this. and welcome back. A couple of comments coming in. Next season, if we lose Randolph, Britt, and don't bring in wingers, we'll be in trouble. Thanks for that one, Joe. We could go down is basically what he's suggesting if we don't strengthen. We talked Tony Pulis earlier, and I don't want to focus on Pulis because we've got to talk forward, look ahead. But you don't blame Pulis 100%, do you?
No, I don't. I think to a point people can. But I think if you give that manager a fair crack of the whip, you back him, you let him build a squad that he wants to build, that he's tried to build 3 consecutive windows and he's not been backed, they've not brought the players in. It's never gonna work. It's never gonna succeed and be where we want to be. You back him. You bring in the players he wants. He's not the type of man that's going to go out and spend 100 million in a transfer window. I mean, he had enough to say about Gary Monk spending 50 million. Let him bring in 3 or 4 players that he wants that are on his A list, not his B, his C, his D list, on his A list to see what he can do. But like you said, now that he hasn't been backed, it just gets harder and harder and harder. And probably the easiest thing for him to do is probably to walk away.
But doesn't he pick the team? Doesn't he determine the tactics? Come on, mate. You're at the mighty Gisborne Town Reserves.
Yeah, well, I mean, look,
you're in charge.
That's what I would say. I mean, I agree with Phil to a certain extent because, you know, he wasn't backed. I think that's well documented. He wasn't backed in the transfer windows. He was at the Borough, Tony Pulis. But ultimately, he picks the style of play on the pitch, and you can put players to places. We spoke a couple of weeks ago on the show, and I had a formation which I thought would have suited the Borough, wouldn't have suited Tony Pulis, would have probably given him a nosebleed because it would be probably too modern and too forward thinking. However, if you put them players out in that formation, you can then go back to the chairman and say, I told you so. Because that's the formation I want to play. That's how we're going to attack teams. And if you can bring them players in, A, B and C, off my A list, like Phil said, we can do it.
But is that not then, we've just had this massive saga with Stuart Downing. Now, if you're saying that it's the manager that picks the players, it's the manager that picks the tactics, I'm sorry, but if the board came to me and said, you can't play him, I'd be saying, I pick the team and I think he needs to be in the team. If the manager picks the players, why the board saying, don't do this, don't do that? Because Steve Gibson this season wanted to go up. He wanted to smash the league 2 years ago and he didn't. He wanted to try it again last season under Gary Monk, Tony Pulis. He didn't. We just missed out. He's got to try and do it this year. No parachute payments going into next year. No money in the coffers as it seems. Yes, the manager picks the tactics, but in terms of picking the players, he's had a player there that he said in the past he would start him every game and he would love a squad full of Stuart Downings. So when he's got the opportunity to play him, he's then not played him anyway.
Okay, let's look ahead.
Quite correct.
What do we need to play? What tactics do we need to employ? Where do we need to strengthen for next season? We're looking ahead, fellas. It's crystal ball time.
In my opinion, and I say it 1,000 times, it's an entertainment industry. I don't think there's a Borough fan sat out there tonight who was watching entertaining football over the last 10 years. It has always been set up for us not to get beat and to try and hit them on the break. And yes, you get the Carabao Cups and the FA Cup.
Yeah, but you don't want humiliations, do you?
No, you don't. But then you also get the big scores, don't you? Beating teams 5-0, 6-0. But the problem you've got is when it's your bread and butter and it's the league, we should be having a go. I'll name 2 teams. 2 teams who were fans have probably been celebrating for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Norwich and Sheffield United. Both haven't spent lots of money. Both play attacking football. Norwich came and played us a couple of games from the end of the season at home. It was 93 minutes on the clock. They were winning 1-0. They were still battering our goal, trying to get that second goal. That's the difference. If we'd have gone 1-0 up, we'd have gone to 5 at the back. That's my point. That is tactics on the pitch.
What do you want to see, Phil?
Do you know, it's hard to sit here and say I want to see attacking football because in this day and age, what is attacking football? We see teams that can come and exploit.
4-4-2.
4-4-2. There's such a fascination with having this 4-4-2. For me, I think we have a strong midfield. I think Clayton, on his day, is a good midfield. I think Saville's going to come good. Howson is phenomenal as he is this last 2 seasons. You build a decent squad around a midfield like that, then I think you're going to have the attacking options, whether you've got 1 up front, whether you've got 2 up front. So I want to see attacking football. I want to see entertaining football, but what is attacking, entertaining football?
I would say 4-4-2. I would say 4-3-3. People will sit there and laugh at 4-3-3. The Borough.
That's a bit old, isn't it?
4-3-3 for me. Playing with 2 wide men who come in behind the lone striker up front. People go, oh, the lone striker, Mark. They then become 3 attackers. they then become
Is
free
that what
attackers.
Fjortoft, Barmby and Higgy effectively were
Yes.
back in those days?
And by the way, it's just got Liverpool to the Champions League final. Now, yes, I know that's Liverpool. They've spent millions of pounds. What, 200 million quid he spent over the time he's been there. However, it's still a style of football, and that style of football is entertaining, and it's always periodically moving forward. And I hate to get tactical, fellas. Lose the ball, should get it back in max of 5 seconds in that formation. Where we play, lose the ball, look at the stats, 12 to 15 seconds. That's why we don't win games.
So we've talked Pulis. We've mentioned a couple of managers. Wagner's, Reitziger. Well, we'll take him out of the equation for the moment. So experienced guys who've been there and done it. Jukanovic, Wagner, people like that. Do you expect to see that type of manager in? Or do you expect it to be a Woodgate pulling a Higgy from Hartlepool, or a Reitziger getting his chance in management? Do you see that sort of manager?
I don't think we've got the money to bring in Houghton, Wagner, anybody like that. I also don't want to see somebody like Woodgate, Fleming, Higgy. We have this fascination with people that have been at the club previously because they know the club, blah, blah, blah. It's not worked. It doesn't work. We just need to go out there and find a manager, a young manager that is currently enjoying success. Give them a fair crack of the whip. The Cowley brothers have been mentioned a few times. Can they do it in the EFL as opposed to where they are now?
I don't
remains to be seen.
I think that's
but until you give them a go...
Yeah. For me personally, I think it's a step too far. I think it's someone who needs to know the league, either an ex-player or someone who's been in and around management, potential coach. Look, I'm not adverse, and the borough are not adverse to giving people their first job in management. You only have to look over the press over the last week since the news broke that potentially Pulis was not getting his contract renewed. The likes of Mikel Arteta has been named because Man City want to farm him out to go and get experience in management with a view of taking over from Pep at Man City. Great ideal first manager, attacking great coach.
Got a long track record of giving people chances here, haven't we?
Yeah.
From your McLarens through to your Southgates, through to your Karankas,
Yeah.
all the way through. Gary Monkey, and he didn't have long at Swansea.
Well, you can go right back to Brian Robson, can
Yeah,
you know? So we had a club known for that. There's also talk, again, I've read the talk of Steven Gerrard making that step from north of the border up to the Championship, a bit like Frank Lampard has. Again, another winner, someone who can instill discipline, and somebody who has played a lot of football, and a modern coach. I'm not adverse to that. I just think that if we're going to do it, the club needs to back him. And if we can't back him financially, they need to back him morally. Like, come out and say to the fans, we're going to keep this bloke for the next 3 years because he's going to take us places.
So now you're talking to communication, which is where we started. How can the club communicate better?
Talk to the fans. I mean, we live in a social media age nowadays. We've got Instagram, we've got YouTube, we've got Facebook. We all still have email. We all still have mailboxes for letters through the door every now and again. Talk to us. Tell us what you want us to do. Yeah. When was the last time Mr. Gibson did some sort of,
I hope
radio
that's Mr.
interview?
Gibson ringing us now.
Yeah, it's the pizza delivery.
When was the last time any of this happened?
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
Yeah. No, you're right. Look, we've belted on about it all season. The only time I ever get anything through my front door is when they want money off me. Your season tickets are just about renew. Come on, tell me what's going on. We do shows like this, fans, by fans, for the fans, we do it. That we've got other projects in the pipeline which we're going to come on to. But, in my opinion, we should be talking more. And does it have to be the chairman? No. We've got enough people there, haven't we, to come out and say, this is what the chairman thinks.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't have to be Mr. Gibson, does it? It can be, Neil Bowser. It can be Mr. Beverton. It can be one of his PR people.
I'll tell you what I'll do. This is the end of season pizza party. Joe behind the scenes, can you just tell the pizza guy we'll be down in a second? Well, we're at the end of the season.
Yeah.
We're looking for changes. We're looking for progression. We're looking for inspiration. We've got our own inspiration for the end of the season. Red Army Radio. How do you fancy it? 24/7 radio station across Teesside. all about the borough. Fancy it?
Absolutely. No-brainer. Talking.
I'm not good at
the
talking.
end off a
like.
donkey.
I'm not good at this talking, like.
You're not.
Absolutely my job. Absolutely my job. I'm all over that.
Well, it's coming our way because that's what we're going to launch for the new season. Red Army Radio 24/7. You can do show what you can do.
I don't know. I don't know whether we might do Red Army Rumours, we might do Red Army Grassroots, looking at grassroots football, everything though topical, keeping up what's going on at the Riverside. I can see big things ahead for Red Army Radio.
Right. Fellas, thanks for all your help this season. Red Army Radio will be with you just before the season starts. See you.